After drawing in very lightly 3 goldfish, I painted around the shapes using cerulean blue. As you can hear by the water lapping, I used lots of water as I painted wet into wet, starting with the cerulean and then adding other blues as I went. I wanted to maintain the hard edges around the fins, so I dried the paper before I added more color to darken up the fins so they would fall back a little bit. Make sure you erase any unwanted pencil lines before you paint over them. Even painting water over your pencil lines will make them very hard to remove because the sizing in the paper will seal them. This whole painting in real time took me just over 1 hour. I left the paper under the bodies of the fish white, so as I painted the yellows and the golds in, I'd have a nice contrast between the two, and my colors would stay really bright and vivid. I used a cadmium yellow for the base, and then I added in cadmium red, which is kind of a orange color. And then for some highlights, I used some alizarin crimson later. Notice that I wet the background and then I let the color of the fish bleed back up into the background. It's nice to get the color of your fish back in the background colors. And now I'm going to use a little indigo to separate the fish from each other. It adds a shadow. I do wet into dry on the foreground fish and wet into wet on the background fish, making sure that the background paper is wet so it flows out. Now I'm adding more dark to the background. You always got to keep watching and adding more dark. Now I'm going to draw in the eyes. I pencil them in and then I'll paint them. You might notice that I have a reference and I'll glance up at the reference just to get the eye like a fish's eye is supposed to be. The rest of the fish I let it flow. I put in the detail, little dots around the eye, some hard edges, and then I'll come back and I'll paint in pupils. Pupils I use an indigo. I don't like to use black, it's kind of dead. But indigo works really well, and if you leave just a little bit of white, it'll look like a reflection from a light source. After I make sure that the painting is really dry, I'll come back in and I'll use a dark value to drop that lower fish back into the background. He kind of stands out being all bright like that. So I'll just paint some muddy colors over him. Next, make sure that it's dry and then you can sign it so you don't work it to death. You can always come back later. I cut in the highlight with an X-Acto knife on the lower fish's eye. When I dropped him back, it got muddy.